We'll start with the consent agenda. On page 9, Commissioner Bruins, $372.32. Motion to approve, please.
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. On page 12, Goliad Auto Parts, $54.82. Motion to approve. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Commissioner Edwards on page 15, $714.15. Motion to approve, please.
Move.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Commissioner White on page 15, $655.50. Motion to approve, please.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One abstention.
Motion carries. Do we have any questions on the remainder of the consent agenda? If not, I need a motion to approve, please.
Move.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First thing on the agenda, earlier this year, we approved the GLO contract. We actually approved the contract with the engineer on that grant. They put dollars to their contract. These are dollars that are being supplied through the grant at no cost to the county. $85,820.52. All engineering, inspections, everything that goes with building the road, on-site inspections. Do we have any questions? It's simply to approve the dollar amount that they put on the contract after we gave them the roads that they were going to fix, after Commissioner Edwards met with them out on the road.
And that was just engineering fees, is that what you?
These are engineering fees. $85,820. They're paid, they were dictated that we have to use an engineer all the way through.
Right.
It's a GLO grant, no
Right.
choices,
Right.
nothing. So we're simply trying to put the dollar figure on the contract that we've already approved.
Right.
Can I get a motion to approve that, please?
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Edwards, Trailhead Cowboy Church requests use of Precinct 1 water truck to water the rodeo arena for church youth group activity.
It's just a youth group from the church that wants to have a play day out there, and I've let others use the water truck for dusting the arena and keep it safe for them, so I have no problem with it.
Need a motion to approve that, please.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to get a motion to remove from the table, the motion to place Emergency Services District referendum on the ballot for November, and then we can have a discussion afterwards.
I have a motion to remove it off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Last week, we began a discussion about having an emergency services district for Goliad County. We had a homework assignment to go out and gather all the information that we could gather in that period of time, come back and make a report to the rest of the Commissioners Court, and see what we want to do moving forward. Commissioner Bruins, I know that you got some stuff you want to lead off or not.
Well, did y'all make any calls or look into this any, or?
Yes, I spent, most of the day over in Gonzales with Eddie Callender and,
Right, okay. I made 3 different calls, one to Jackson, one to Calhoun, and one to Gonzales. Jackson is already in a district, they have a hospital, and it's all in a district, been there for a while. Calhoun, talked to Richard Miller, the judge there. They just, their hospital and their EMS is still under county. He had talked like they were interested in looking into districting, the hospital, and they do operate in the black. So then I called Gonzales, and he told me, yeah, we should talk to Eddie and maybe fill us in on some, just the ups and downs or whatever. They went into this 2 years ago. The only thing is, they went from a volunteer EMS to a regular EMS, but they have several cities within the county. They don't have just Gonzales. Like Goliad is just Goliad. So, the only thing is they didn't bring in any of their fire departments. This is only an EMS, district. And because it's just like ours, it's gonna use the whole 10 cents. Of course, I don't know if they're using 10 cents. I didn't get that far. That was some of the questions that I felt like we need to get answered. And there again, the judge told me it'd be best if we had talked to Eddie on this deal. My thoughts, and there again, I said last time that we looked and talked about this a year ago, and then now it's coming up again, and we've hired a new collection agency to collect for our EMS. So we haven't really given them a chance to prove themselves. They said they could do better than our last collection. And there again, I'm not against this, but I worry about jumping into something too quick without, checking all the ins and outs. And if we could maybe even get Eddie down here to talk to us about this, or maybe bring some of his personnel, or how it all works. But the scary thing is I have had phone calls from the volunteer fire departments here wanting some of this money. And I just, Goliad, we don't have a big tax revenue, so we just, I don't want to get in that fix to where we agree to do this, and the voters do agree to do it also, but then we come up short-handed on the EMS side, because even though the fire departments are very important, I'm not saying they're not important, but I think this is mostly to fund the EMS. So that's my thoughts, and that's kind of what I learned this past week.
Wanna weigh in? And then I'll go.
Okay. I guess the first thing is if this, that's ways down the road, but one question I'd like to have answered is, if we did decide to do this district and it didn't work, what do we have to do to get out of it and get back into the way it is? I'm just saying, in case it doesn't work out the way we hope it does. My first question is, what happens? How can we get out of that district and get back to running it ourselves? That's one. Two, I'm personally I'm against more government, but I don't have a problem with the people telling us what they think. And I wouldn't be opposed to, as long as it's non-binding referendum for now, I wouldn't be opposed to putting it on the ballot and see what the people think.
And I'm, like I said before, I'm not against it at all, and the ESD would be a good thing, but the first thing, like Commissioner Bruins alluded to, we need to figure out to make sure that we fund our EMS, first thing, because that's what we're basically purposely doing this for. They have to have enough funds to operate what they operate and cover, you know, take care of our citizens like they have been doing. And if there's, you know, it's going to take a few years before the money can be built up from the tax, of course, as we all know. There again, on the second thought, I wouldn't be against having the voters feel it out, see what they think.
If I may. Also, I think a lot of things can be solved with the financing if we look at how we're taking the money back that the insurance brings us on recoveries for calls that the ambulance makes. It's like $327,000, I think they've collected this year. If we could put that back into it, we could do it two ways. You could do it with the district, or we as a court could put that money, instead of taking it back into the general fund every year, if we allowed them to keep that fund to draw on in times like, I think they're 8,000 over right now. They're not very far over budget, but they wouldn't even be a worry. They would have that money in there to pull on, you know, to help them through, because I think they probably would have done all right this year if it hadn't been for this virus, you know, and the extra calls and things that hit them. But
well, the virus and the overtime parts of their budget.
but some of it is, I think, I mean, the fuel and things like that they're having extra calls. They're a little short on their fuel line, I think, but it's nothing that's out of control from what I see. And when they have that money that's coming back to them in charges that we charge, they're not in a bind at all. And the same thing with the district or us. If the district gets all that money back, you know, and say it's $300,000-400,000 a year, they can grow a pretty decent account to manage themselves. We could do the same thing.
And then there again, Judge, if I may interject, starting off, they're gonna have some pretty big expenses to, you know, they're gonna have to find them a home, build a place to stay in, and by that time probably have to buy another unit or two. So some of those, you know, those funds, if it don't so desire, everybody wants to go that way to the ESD, they're gonna have to spend a whole bunch of money starting out, in my opinion, because we got to get them a home. The home there.
We're going to do that whether they go to the district or the state.
Yeah, but those are some of the expenses that are looming, you know, in front of us here. We got to build them another house. The house they're in ain't cutting it.
And that's another question I asked, who housed them? Okay, so, I think Gonzalez built them a house, if I'm not mistaken. I talked to 3 different ones. So, of course, Calhoun houses them because it's still all county. I believe Jill over in Edna told me that they had their own house, but they've been district for a while with the hospital. We're not looking for a $1 million house for them. You know, we're looking for $300,000 to $400,000 maybe. That's what we're looking at. It's not a big extravagant building, you know. And I believe even if they went to districting, then they could possibly, you know, rent it back from us at a certain point when they get their head over water. Again, you know, our biggest expense with EMS is overtime. So, and I feel like if I walked up to this trailer house, this is just me, and I applied for a job with EMS in Goliad, and they told me that was your house. And you're going to spend 48 hours in this trailer house with minimum 4 people, sometimes 6 people. how many of those people turn around and walk away. And the magic number right now is 81% on our budgets, what we've used throughout the year. And they're sitting at 84%. So they, we're really, like Kenneth said, we're really close to that equal number. Richard over in Calhoun said they do have a board, even though it's a county EMS and a hospital, they have a board that oversees them. And yeah, that's, when you get a board with people that are more knowledgeable of what's going on in that organization, then yeah, sometimes that helps. I mean, yeah, I'm supposed to be over their budget, but their, medicine and different things have happened, and, there's just, gotta let them run with the ball more than. And then hopefully this other 3% that they're over, maybe that's something we'll recover from the COVID deal, because we did pay employees, 14 days to.
That's all covered.
Right. So we're hoping we'll get maybe some of that 84, that other 3% back, so.
Commissioner White? You have anything?
I think if you're gonna do a tax on taxpayers, they ought to have a say. So I think they ought to decide if they really want to do this or not. I think they ought to at least let us know what they want. That way, we do what the people want us to do. That's who we work for. That's my only thought right there. I work for them. If they say we don't want it, then it needs to go away. They say they do want it, we need to look into it. It's that simple. That's who we work for.
They just need to be educated on.
I
It's
agree.
very important that we
I
tell
agree.
them the pros and the cons, and we get this information from
But-
people that have been through it.
But
That
to
is
do a
very
tax,
important.
the taxpayer needs to have a say. I mean, go back to the road and bridge. They should have had a say in whether we put that 15-cent special on. But that's bottom line. The taxpayers need to have a say in their taxes, not us running them over them. They need to be the ones saying, I want this or I don't. If they don't want to pay our salary. I'm just saying, I'm willing to give them the vote and let them see what they want or what they don't want. That's all it's going to come down to, one way or the other.
To address Commissioner White's question, I believe anything that's wound up can be unwound. I mean, I guess it'd just be a reverse procedure if we decided we wanted to do away with it. We would just make that decision or have another vote, but you can dissolve a district.
Anytime you're dissolving a taxing entity, whether it's a city or hospital district or taxing entity, it's pretty laborious task, but it ultimately goes to the vote. Not decided by commissioners.
Right.
It'd be the voters that decide to get rid of it.
That's right.
But if we go into this, we're gonna go in with the idea that we're gonna succeed. I spoke, with Mr. Callender for a good while last week, and he's been doing this for over 40 years, so he's got a fairly good handle on it. He made a couple of comments. EMS is expensive. It just costs a lot of money to do. But he said a few things that were, some things that I didn't know. He said that with the experience he's got, if you have a board of directors that oversees the operation, I think it's 5 people, they have more time and dedication to helping the EMS manage their budget. And if you want to control your expenses, he highly recommends it. He said that all of his supervisors work on a bus, and you're able to save a few dollars that way. He said that the commissioners, the board of directors, they're all experienced with emergency medical care. So they have a better handle on it, with the exception of Commissioner Morales, of the needs and what's legitimate and what's not so legitimate, that when you're being fed these stories by the personnel or whoever your EMS director is. So they're able to wade through what's an absolute and what's not so absolute. So those guys, they're able to do a better job for the most part than 4 commissioners and a judge. He also said that with the anticipated shortfalls in taxes coming up this coming year, that it's important that these rural counties like Goliad, Refugio, Karnes, whoever else, start working together, sharing assets. You can do multi-county ESDs. It doesn't have to be just Goliad. I saw one that Medina County's involved in. There's 4 counties in it. So they're covering an uninhabited area of those 4 counties, and it just works out good for them. You have to think out of the box. They use what he calls a fast car, where you have a paramedic that responds to a lot of calls in his fast car. I guess it gets good gas mileage and not like a bus. And he's got all the tools on board, and he will go to Mr. Christopher's house and see what the situation is. If he realizes that an ambulance is absolutely going to be necessary, he'll get him on the way, and he's got all the tools in his vehicle to be able to stabilize while the ambulance is on the way. So his EMT would drive the ambulance to the Christopher's home, and then he would leave his vehicle there and get in the ambulance and go to wherever they needed to go. Did I say that wrong?
Emergency vehicle and ambulance cannot leave the station without 2 certified people it's against the law.
If they're
I
going,
can't drive the ambulance with licensed sirens if I do not have a partner.
there may be an exception to that if they're going to the same place and they're in the same crew. I'm just telling you what he told us. I know nothing about it, Pat. Nothing.
Okay.
So you've got a vehicle that's getting 30 miles per gallon versus a 1-ton Ford that's getting 8 miles a gallon on a good day. The operational costs are significantly less, and he can assess whether or not there's a need to have the ambulance there, and he has the tools on board to make it happen, to do the stabilization that's necessary until the ambulance can arrive. He says it can depend on the kind of call that you're on. You know, if it's just a kind of a welfare check at the nursing home, for instance, one person goes over there in the fast car and the ambulance can run over there, and if there's a need to transport. Plus, half of our calls are no hauls, roughly. So the fast car seems like a viable option. It could be used across all shifts. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not the one to evaluate that. These are just ideas. As I said, he has all of his supervisors working. Sometimes the supervisor drives the fast car, and the ambulance crew awaits what he tells them when he shows up. If you cross-train police officers, they can operate as first responders also. He was a little sketchy on that. Sometimes the ambulance beats the SO unit there. So those are all things considered, but what he did remain firm on is that if you want to get the most bang for your buck, which in this case is 10 cents per hundred, then having an emergency services district is probably the way you want to go, just because you have a closer management. You got the same ambulances showing up, same amount of money, we're limited to a dime. And I guess that's my spill on it. We can interview ESDs all over the state if we want to. These guys were very forthcoming with their responses. I think it's something we need to look into. It's not something we have to do, but it's something we need to go further into. I'd like to hear from the people to see if they would entertain that thought. I too have gotten phone calls from the fire departments.
Who's to say that, you know, the 10 cents will give them about what their budget is right now? Okay, pretty close. After a year, because they will keep their money, I'm sure, that they make, right? The 30, 40, 50% we're hoping it's getting better, we hope. And who's to say that if they build up a little bank account that we can't give, you know, a penny later to the fire departments or something like that? You know what I mean? Down the road, but
That would be up to that 5-member board, though.
That would be up to the five, it wouldn't be up to, once we create an ESD, we don't have anything to do with it.
okay, it would be up to their board. I got you.
There's 5 guys, or gals that are gonna manage that emergency services district. They make the decisions. They are committed, they are appointed by Commissioner's Court. So I guess ultimately,
Well,
so,
somebody that, yeah, will run their business. And
so I would prefer to have, experience, medical.
That's what you need. I mean, you need somebody with experience in those fields.
Right, and with the exception of you, we're not it. I don't think, I may be speaking out of turn, but so.
I too have 40 years of service too.
Right. So I'm just thinking that we need to, move this on to the next step. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen. We may continue to dive into it as we're trying to educate the public as to what all this entails, that we may decide it's just not a deal for us. I haven't seen that stop sign yet. It may exist. It's just something in me that says that if we're gonna create a new taxing entity, that we need to let the taxpayers, the people that fund this, have a say.
Great.
And it's non-binding. It'll just, if they come up and say, no, we don't want it, then I guess we'd stop at that point.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion that we do put this non-binding referendum on the ballot. I'd like to know what the people think, as long as they're informed in a unbiased way. We just put out the information without any bias and let people tell us what they think. I'd be more than happy with that.
Can I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments, Mr. Creech, you had your hand up.
Yes, sir. Once again, I love you guys. ESD is an awesome entity if you have enough tax. And so once again, we'll find out pretty quick. I did my homework too, worked with calendar, and I go back about 4 years. But the one thing is, Gonzalez was another partner. They had to, because because the people that were running before Ed got there, they sold all the money, so there was no money, so they had to create an agency. And once again, it was the best thing that our town could have done. And so, once again, it's just an example, the city of Edna decided to do an ESP, they thought they were gonna be coming in with $900,000 a year. But what they didn't expect is, with all that tax exemption, it came in with $300,000. I think it's gonna be pretty easy, Judge, is you go to the comptroller, ask him, what would our ESP rate of money rate would be at 3, 5, and 10 cents, and then you'll know exactly how.
Thank you. Based on our current expenditures, I'm really sure it's gonna be closer to 10 cents than it is 3 cents.
Yes, sir.
Was there anyone else that had a comment out here? Yes, sir.
And Mr. The statute is 775 by the state of Texas. It rounds out what has to be done to create an ESP. You have to have 100 signatures for it to be on the ballot. I assume that we have those signatures.
We haven't started that petition because they haven't allowed. I don't think getting 100 signatures would be a problem.
And that's one thing, Doug from Edna, Jill, she sent me a PowerPoint that they had gone through. And I think I sent it to everybody, and it explained each step very well. So we've all got to look at,
So we can put the PowerPoint on the county website and allow everyone to start getting educated exactly what this means.
good idea.
And I think that we'll just see what happens. But our expenditures continue to go up on ambulance service. I never hear a complaint about the quality of the work. Ever. People complain about high taxes, so forth. But when it comes to the ambulance service, they show up and do what they're supposed to do, which is what's expected of them, and we appreciate it. So, with that said, anyone else have a comment? Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question. For it to go on the ballot, does it have to be property or it can, for a non-binding referendum, does it have to be property? Or can it be anything?
The only thing under the local government code, it talks about property, non-binding referendum in counties with less than 40,000 residents. And it talks about property. I did a lot of research today, looking to see whether or not there's anything prohibits you from having a non-binding referendum. I couldn't find anything, and I called Pat and talked to them. We hammered it out back and forth for quite a while. And we came to the conclusion that there's no harm in having a non-binding referendum. All it says is the lady wants to go ahead and move forward. People can start at once, get serious about this, start doing the petition and getting everything lined up now. But the only thing that's going to happen in November is not going to create anything for 2 more years or longer. So the only thing that happens this November is everybody's just sticking their finger up in the wind and seeing which direction.
So the 17th of August is the last day to put something on the ballot for November. We're not going to get that done. So, for a formal referendum. So it just makes sense to me that we would go ahead and have a non-binding referendum. It's just one more box and let people give their opinions on it. So we've decided to do that. I appreciate that. And we'll see where it takes us. Yes, ma'am.
Can it, like I said, we're gonna educate them, but can you also make sure that whoever's writing it out for the ballot, that yes means yes, and that it doesn't mean no means vote no, that means yes?
Don't write it backwards like the state does.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
we try to do that. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Comments, announcements? Brian Howard lost his mother to COVID, and he buried her today. Another one of those situations where a person's in a nursing home and they've got extra room, so they brought COVID patients in. and they buried her today. So, I don't know who thought of that, but it doesn't seem to be a very good idea, at any rate. All right, if that's all we have, then I need a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll entertain that motion, Judge.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? We adjourn. Thank you.